What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Or welcome to your first time here. How many of you all remember the power outage in Texas last winter? I wasn't there. Of course, I was here in Tennessee. However, I remember reading about that online and watching news broadcasts talking about that, and Texas was a mess. Texas fell very quickly, and all it took was some cold weather and a power outage. And even here last winter, I was out of power here for just about 4 days straight. The power lines were down. There was a lot of rain that turned into ice and weighted those power lines down, and a lot of trees fell over those lines, and I was down here for nearly 4 days. And it wasn't that bad because I was prepared. I was warm, I still had heat, I was watching DVDs, I was on my cell phone because I had that charged up and had ways to charge that. So pretty much here, life went on as normal for me because I was prepared. And a lot of people, when you talk about preparedness, they put up a shield because they don't want to think that anything could possibly happen, because if they admit that things can happen, then they have to be prepared. And if they're not prepared, then what happens to them is their fault, it's their responsibility, and they are the ones to blame for whatever conditions they are in after any type of disaster happens. And even if you don't think there's going to be an economic collapse, if you don't think there's going to be an EMP or something like that, or a massive cyber attack that takes down the power grid, or severe shortages, hyperinflation, even if you don't think that any of that is going to happen, you should still see the need to be prepared because bad weather happens. You know, tornadoes happen to knock power lines down. Snow, ice, weight those power lines down, cause those limbs and trees to fall across those power lines and break those down. Power outages happen every year, and right now we're getting closer to fall weather. I can feel the fall weather in the air here right now because it was about 60 degrees here this morning, and it's usually been in the 80s in the mornings here. So it's getting closer to winter time. If you take the lessons learned from last year in Texas, or even here where I am, like I said, I was down for 3 days without power here. Common sense should tell anyone that you need to be prepared. And one of the most important things is to have a way to heat, because if it's wintertime and you are cold, you are freezing, and you have no heat, then hypothermia can set in very quickly. One test to see if hypothermia is starting to set in is, well, shivering is one of the first signs of hypothermia. Another test you can do is to take your hand and see if you can touch your fingertips without much effort. If you can't do this, then hypothermia is setting in. One of the worst and most unreliable heating sources you can have is right over here, guys. Electric heat. That pump is for the downstairs, that heat pump is for the upstairs. Bad weather happens, power goes out, these no longer work. You cannot rely on these to keep you warm. So you need a way to keep warm because you don't want to be freezing and have hypothermia. You don't want to get frostbite or anything like that. Most places in the southern U.S. are usually, things happen and they can be weather extremes that actually are out of the ordinary. But usually, even at that heat, if you're in your house out of that wind and you have sleeping bags and things like that, you will stay sufficiently warm enough to stay alive. However, it might not be comfortable. So having a way to heat is extremely important. A wood stove is one of the best heating sources you can have because no matter what happens, if you have firewood, you can build a fire and you can stay warm. However, that isn't always possible for everyone. This is a great wood stove. This stove was actually in this house when I bought this house, and it is a great backup heating source. It is in my garage down here, and the heat actually will go from the stove up through, there's a vent up there on the top. You can see it's actually covered up right now, but the heat will go from the stove up through that vent up into the living room. I have a fan right here, but that fan won't work, when the power is out. And if it was extremely cold, you could always bring the beds down here and sleep down here, so it's a great backup heating source. And guys, when the power goes out, having a generator like this is definitely a huge benefit, because you can use this to keep your freezers frozen, you can keep your refrigerator running to save all that food from spoiling. You can also take that food outdoors, of course, if the power outage is in the winter time and it is actually below freezing. So you can take that food outside in a secure location and actually save that food from thawing out and running that food until your power comes back on. But guys, having a gas power generator like this is definitely a huge benefit. You can also use this to charge up your batteries. If you have a solar system, you can actually plug that in. If you have it set up right, of course, you can plug that battery system in with your generator and top those batteries off to keep those charged up. Something like this is also beneficial. However, it's not a necessary item. This was around $500, I think it was, several years ago when I bought this. You can see the brand. And they make other brands that are essentially the same thing. This actually has the solar panels included in this. You just take this out and open this up when the sun is out, and it will charge up. And you can plug in your phone and things like that to keep those charged. You can see. So something like that is handy, especially when it comes to smaller power outputs like charging phones and things like that. So definitely something like that is a benefit. But if I had the choice between the generator and this, I would definitely choose the gas powered generator. And guys, when the power goes out, if you cook with an electric range like most people do, something like this Coleman camp stove, it's a 2-burner Coleman camp stove. I got this at Walmart. You can also get these at any camping supply store. You order these online. Amazon has these. They work great and are great for camping, of course, great for bugging out, and they're also great for power outages, because being able to cook is essential when the power goes out. You want to also put back some fuel, and I would suggest 1 bottle of fuel for every 3 days. A radio is definitely great to have because you can keep entertained, you can keep up with the news and things like that. This is Voyager Pro. This actually has its own solar panel, runs off of batteries. You can also crank this, has a light. This is an AM and FM shortwave type radio. Very good radio and very efficient as far as its power usage goes. And like I said, many different ways to keep this charged up and keep this operational. Another thing that you might want to get is a police scanner and get those frequencies programmed for your area, that we can keep up with what the police are doing, the road conditions. You can keep up with the utility company to see where they're working, how much longer it's going to be before the power might get restored and things like that. If you don't want to get a Coleman camping stove like this with the 2 burners, you can look into something like this right here. This is cheaper. This are about $20, and that'll there is about $60. And this uses the butane fuel like this, and as you can see, there's what it looks like. I have a review of this stove somewhere on my YouTube channel, I remember. But the fuel goes in here. It's just a 1-burner stove, but it works great, and it's lightweight, and it's small. And this would be plenty enough for 1 person. If you have more than 1 person, then the Coleman camp stove is a better option, I think, because you have 2 burners. You also want to look into putting back a good cold weather sleeping bag for every member of your family. Put that back, because it'll go a long way to keep away that hypothermia and that frostbite. I want to look into putting back some books to read, some board games and things like that to keep the family occupied. This, of course, is my book. It's really not the best for reading when the power goes out. This is best for reading before the power goes out, so you can actually be better prepared. And guys, when it comes to heating, when the power goes out, something like this natural gas heater is absolutely great. I was down, like I said, to start this video for almost 4 days. This was my main heating source, and it never failed. Hooked up to natural gas, keep your bill paid, keep the gas flowing through. This isn't a option for a complete in-the-world type situation event, because the gas company might cease to operate during such an event. But with power outages and things like that, this works great. And guys, having something like this homeless portable power system generator is absolutely wonderful to have when the power goes out. This is the 1500 series powered by Homeless, and you can charge this up with solar. I have the solar panels to charge this up with. You can also use this extension cord to plug in and plug it into the electricity when electricity is on and charge this up. You can plug this in to the gas generator that I showed you a minute ago, the Honda, and I can also plug this into my pickup truck because it has a generator built into the truck, and I can plug this in, keep this charged multiple ways. Like I said, solar, the gas power generator, electricity from the utility company. Last winter when the power was out here for nearly 4 days, I used this to play DVDs. I used this for lighting. Worked absolutely great. I would play it of the day and the night for TV and watching DVDs, keeping the lights on, and then when the power would start to get down below halfway point, I would take this and charge this up. And I charged this up, like I said, in the back of my pickup truck. I pulled my truck around to the front and ran extension cord from my truck into the house here and plugged it up into this and kept this charged up. The great thing about this, you know, unlike that gas powered Honda generator I showed you all a minute ago, this can be taken directly inside the house and used. If you use that Honda generator inside the house that runs off of gasoline, it's a gasoline powered engine, then you will quickly perish from carbon monoxide poisoning. So that's great because you can bring this in the house, you can charge this up multiple ways, from quiet, it has a fan. There's my other little dog. What you doing, girl? What you doing? I've had this little dog for just about 13 years. I got her when she was about that big. And guys, you also want something to have light so you can see what's going on, especially if you don't have something like this to keep a regular lamp running. These I found works really well. I'll put a link to the description box below. These are around 17 bucks, I think it was, each when I bought these, and the batteries in these things last a long time. I ran one of these constantly for 2 days straight, and the batteries were still charged and still working. If you enjoyed the video, then please give it a big thumbs up. Greatly appreciate it, guys. Be sure to go down the description box below and check out the links in the description box. Go to my website, Creekmore.com, and check out the articles there on that website. Greatly appreciate it, guys. Thanks for watching. The Creekmore, I'm out of here, and I'll see you all in the next video, hopefully.